order some Chinese and talk about my penis, please. That's the loveliest tree. How you dare just plant me? Get the drugs out of the car. Special guest on with us. Yeah, today we have a very special guest on with us. Are you recording the?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So,
you want to introduce him?
yeah, we have Rob. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Loggia?
That is correct.
Rob Loggia.
Loggia.
He's John McAfee's campaign manager for his presidential election. He's also the founder of Loggia on Fire magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, is there anything else that our listeners should know about you right off the bat?
No, I've worked with John in a number of capacities, cryptocurrency industry, and the political campaign right now is taking most of my attention.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for very much for coming on today, John. Appreciate it.
Rob.
Oh, Rob, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're interviewing a few different people today. I think one of them's name is John. But,
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'd like to start out by asking, what are you smoking on right now?
This is just a cigarette, death sticks, man.
Nice. Well, we're drinking Stone IPA.
Yeah,
and
Lush Puppy, Juicy
Lush
IPA.
Puppy.
What are you drinking?
And we
Just coffee. You know where IPAs came from, right?
Where?
India Pale Ale was developed because when the British colonized India and basically had their way with the people there, they decided that they wanted one of the creature comforts from home, which was beer. How can you colonize an indigenous people if you don't have your beer for after the hard work of the day? Unfortunately, though, every time the beer was shipped by boat to India, it was rotten by the time it got there.
really.
Some clever soul figured out that if he packed the beer full of hops, just as much as he could, stuff the hops in there, it would stay good, make it all the way to India, but have sort of a different taste. Well, people got used to the taste, and even when they no longer needed it as a preservative, they continued to make India Pale Ale, IPA.
Wow.
So essentially, it's just skunked beer. That's funny.
It's the antidote to skunked beer, actually.
Okay. Interesting.
That was no good, but the hoppy flavor they were able to get used to. I always found that you put that buzz on way faster with an IPA.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
they're definitely a lot stronger, and they fill you up too. So yeah, how did you meet John?
Well, this is not John's first campaign.
He was Libertarian candidate 4 years ago, right?
Correct. Well, candidate to be the nominee 2016.
Uh-huh.
Wow, just 4 years. And so at the time, I had volunteered for that campaign. My first political campaign was actually an attempt to get Charlie Sheen to run for president in the same year.
Oh, yeah.
So you know Charlie?
He's a hard man to get in touch with, and this was before he announced that he had some problems of his own. So that didn't really work out. In the middle of that campaign, I saw John on Greta Van Susteren, and he said he was going to run for president. I listened to what he had to say. I said, well, that's all I need. And dropped my campaign and signed on to his, and the rest is history. So
Awesome. So is he running with? Can you tell us about the Cyber Party? And is he running with the Cyber Party? Is that something he just he created, or?
The Cyber Party was actually from the 2016 run. I know it can be difficult on the internet. There's a lot of different information that kind of gets worked out. Cyber Party is no more. That was an attempt to start a political party. What was quickly learned is how difficult that is in this country. Libertarian Party's been around for 50 years, and it's hardly a blip on the radar in these elections. So that should tell you. So he will again be seeking the Libertarian nomination. It'll be with that party.
Okay. So is he going to be involved in any debates or anything, or what's going on right now?
We've heard from some of the state affiliates that are interested in having him over a video link. I know you had John on your show, so you're aware that right now he's not in the country. He has no plans to be.
Yeah.
I know people think he's blowing smoke when he says that his life is in danger and that he's being pursued by authorities. And people can believe whatever they want, but I would say that that's not the case.
Really?
The danger is real, and the interest in his person being delivered to various different government authorities is real. So he's not going to make it easy for them. If anybody knows how to survive and stay free, it's John McAfee, and that's what we're going to help him do. So when he run this campaign, when he decided to do the run again, he was in the country. And, you know, we sort of planned for it around that being the case. And he was going to do the touring around and debates in person. That's no longer a possibility. So to the extent that we will be accommodated, and to the extent that those accommodations hold our interest, you know, we're not going to be a second-rate, you know, sort of second-class citizen. But to the extent that we can, we would like to participate. One of the things that's different about what we're doing, we're very upfront about the fact that it's an informational and attention-getting campaign. You know, John does not want the job, which, frankly, if you ask me, makes him more qualified than anybody else seeking it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because his slogan is "Don't vote McAfee," right?
Don't vote back, McAfee. That not.
Who came up with that?
He came up with that.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. Well, the website looks really official and everything. I think you guys are doing a great job. So I guess, can you tell us a little more about your magazine or how that got
Loggia
started?
on Fire, and then also what's Vacant Minds?
So Vacant Minds is a label that I do all of the media projects that I'm involved with are done through that label. So that includes the magazine. I also do a podcast, Crypto Freak Show.
Oh, cool. We'll have to check that out.
Podcast. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I do it with a guy from Australia, Darko. In fact, he had interviewed me in my capacity with Team McAfee. And then after the interview, you know, saw that the chemistry was good. He said, "You want to do a show?" I don't know how I get myself into these things, but I said yes. Now we're up to, I think, our 13th episode. We had John on, and then we just spoke with Richard Hart 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, I think this is our 8th or 9th episode.
Yeah, we'll have to check you guys out and shout you out. That's cool.
Listen, man, this is what, you know, the internet, for all the bad stuff that it does to us, and people can argue that it does plenty of things that are maybe questionable to our society. I mean, social media, the effect that it's had on people's ability to think, you know, longer than 10 seconds. There's lots of negative side effects, privacy that we can talk about, but the big promise has been partially lived up to, and we're living in it here. This is the democratization of speech. The idea that, you know, you don't need to go through these bottleneck media companies to get your voice out there. But that wasn't always the case. In a campaign like we're looking to run now, you could not have run 20 years ago easily. You know, you would have been running off leaflets on the mimeograph machine, trying to get them out to a couple of people locally. That would have been the best you can do, because they would not have put you on. The radio, except for local affiliates, wouldn't have put you on. You basically would have been silenced. So, you know, every time I see somebody picking up and saying, "I'm going to put in the effort," and you know that it's not easy. If you want to stream, there's some things you got to do. And if you want to look good, there's some things you got to do. So it's hard. There is effort there. But if you do that, you can get your voice out, and it potentially can be heard by millions. It won't be the first time, but it can be.
Yeah, I mean, there's some podcasts now that are more watched than the mainstream news, which is awesome. I mean, that's real power right there, essentially.
Yeah. So one other thing is, we want to ask, where's the eye patch? And what's the story behind the eye patch?
The eye patch, after jumping from eye to eye, jumped into a drawer, and I can't find it. I don't know what the story is behind it. I put it on one day. I have a strange sense of humor, and things just happen. But John liked it, and so he said, "Well, you know, let's roll with it for the campaign." So I did that. The funniest thing to me is the media takes these things and they run with it, and they don't even scrutinize it. So I had changed my Twitter handle. Now, you know, some of the garbage that you see in people's Twitter handles. I mean, you could put, and I'm not I'm using the wrong word. Not the handle, but the descriptive part above it, right?
Yeah, the little like bio or whatever. Yeah.
You can put your name there, right? I mean, I've seen like I fuck hippo lovers and a bunch of
Yeah.
right? So you can see anything there. I put, you seen the The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right?
Uh-huh.
Movie with Clint Eastwood, classic. And you had Tuco. Now they say it once in the movie, and that's when they're reading out the charges against him before they're going to, hang him. Tuco's full name, Tuco Benedicto Pacifico Juan Maria Ramirez, is his whole name. Okay, so I put my name as Rob Benedicto Pacifico Juan Maria Loggia Ramirez, just there as a joke because it amused me. Okay, that's it. This is 2 weeks or so before John had some trouble in the Dominican Republic. He was detained by authorities there after leaving Cuba. That was all over the news. He made a bunch of different outlets or whatever. And I started reading these things because I do read things before I share them. And I noticed they're reporting my name as Rob Benedicto Pacifico.
No way.
Yeah. As if that's not good enough, just to make the point that there wasn't some innocent mistake. Later on, you read 3 or 4 paragraphs down, and they're referring to me as Mr. Loggia Ramirez. So, you talk about facts. What do people want? What do they demand? The mainstream media, what are they giving you? When you realize how little they are actually researching this shit, what we used to consider journalism does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
These people run with it, and the rest of them just regurgitate it, and that's what we.
Yeah, it's
Just
all
trying to
about
sell
views.
clickbait. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to create a fake story now. Like, I've been watching these things on YouTube about people who do that. They take a situation and see how quickly they can make it viral. So this one guy dressed up like Justin Bieber and ate a burrito in a weird way, and all of a sudden it's on the news, Justin Bieber eats a burrito like this.
It's not even Justin Bieber.
Yeah, or like this guy faked his way into Paris Fashion Week or all this shit. They do no research. And I don't know. I think me and Hans are going to try to do something like that.
We're
Make
trying
a
to pull
fake
off
story.
a stunt soon.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like most things that I've encountered, John McAfee was doing that shit before it was cool.
Yeah.
About, I think it was 10 years ago, don't quote me on the time, but one of these reporters was giving John a hard time, and the media has covered him, but they're often not fair in the way they do so. They try to ask the gotcha question, and it becomes clear quickly that they're not there to play fair. So John said, all right, that's fine. I'm going to put this bitch on. He gives her a story, and he says, very seriously, describes to her his new occupation, which is giving classes in observational yoga, whereby the participant gets their yoga workout by observing somebody else doing yoga. And he basically described to her how the person absorbs all of the benefits through osmosis, which is, as we know, is how plants get their nutrients and cells. But through osmosis, you can absorb the benefits of the yoga experience. And this lady ran with the story. She ran with the story. So, I mean, these things are easy enough to do. And you speak, somebody will listen, which is scary because how many decisions are made every day? By just one person speaking and another person, acting. And then involve authorities with guns, people being shot dead by the police because some other stupid prick opened their mouth and said something that wasn't true. This shit happens all the time. And the media is one example of it. And it's an impactful example, but the problem is everywhere. Yeah, I mean, and they control the public thought. Yeah, John is actually the king of doing that. I remember I saw one interview where he described eating human flesh and the reporter ran with it. I mean, the whole movie that's coming out about him is essentially him fucking with this reporter and the guy taking it seriously. Yeah. So it's hilarious. And if you're going to show up and you're going to be serious to the point where, nobody wants to deal with you, okay, but you're going to bring a C game, this is what you get. And if you don't want to bring your A game, if you're going to be a serious prick, then who can help you? And this is what these people do. They go for his jugular, but they're going for his jugular with one of those sporks they used to give you at KFC. And that ain't okay. You're not taking out John McAfee with a spork, and now you're going to get a helping yourself. That's just that's fair comeuppance.
So were you saying earlier that a lot of people don't believe that he's being hunted right now or chased? Or you were saying that you don't believe that?
No, I'm not saying a lot. I'm saying that, there is that sentiment. I see it expressed in social media. I was giving my opinion that those people are not correct in that assessment. And the reason why I may be somewhat charitable for them is because of what we just talked about. John can open his mouth and he will say something outrageous to say something outrageous. I mean, whale fucking is a perfect example. He had people all up arms over this shit.
Yeah, we forgot to ask him about that. Yeah. We were going to ask him about the whale fucking.
In that larger context, can you blame somebody for thinking that he's blowing smoke? Well, I suppose not. But in
I see.
Deadly serious issues, and he tends not to joke about those.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I'm curious about what other endeavors you're involved in. How did you get into this field? Can you give us a sort of an in-depth bio on yourself if you want to?
I mean, listen, I can give you the relevant facts. Go back 10 years is a good time, I guess, to start. I was a middle manager. My wife busts my chops all the time. She calls me the Michael Scott of crypto. It's only half false.
The Michael Scott of crypto.
I like that.
Right, but I was a little better than what you saw there. Okay, and really, what you begin to realize, it's a meaningless existence, and then life is a way of throwing things in front of you that really draw that into sharp emphasis. So we start aging, and we start realizing our own mortality. Not that it changed some things, but then I had a daughter, and I lost a brother. And these things all taken together sort of formed this perfect storm where I said, I cannot do this shit anymore. I will not continue to tread water for the man, doing something that I hate, basically telling other people to do things that they hate, not treating them fairly, and being part of this large system without trying to change it. If I was to get hit by a bus tomorrow, and this is the world that I left my daughter to live in, I wouldn't be too pleased with that, and I feel kind of ashamed. If I was alive after being dead, who knows what happens there, but so maybe I'd be feeling nothing. But if I was able to project, I would say I would feel a bit ashamed about that. And that kind of lights a fire under your ass. That's where I came from. I mean, that's not, there's nothing special there. And I gravitated towards politics as a tool. When people hear that, oh, you're involved with a political campaign. Oh, you're interested in politics. No, I fucking hate politics. Okay, I'm about as non-political a person as you will find.
That's probably why you got involved.
Pardon?
I said that's probably why you got involved, because you hate politics.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in playing that game. And it's funny because John is running with the Libertarian Party. I have a lot of libertarian bents, but I wouldn't describe myself as such. I don't have a membership card, and I consider myself a free thinker. I'm free at any given time to look at something and offer an opinion based on its merits. And you'd be amazed how often you get in trouble with people. And what happens a lot, and has always happened in my history, is I'll say one thing, and then people decide, oh, I like that. Oh, and they immediately will label you, and they'll say, you're one of these. And they decide, oh, you're one of us. And then the ooga chugga shit starts, and like, yeah, one of us. I think they got another one on the hook. And then I'll go and say something else. And something else is completely across the field. I believe it just as strongly, but I'm now commenting on something else. So mine may be very far left, maybe very far right, very few in the middle. And people, they almost get angrier about that than if you just disagree with them. It's almost like they take it as a betrayal. And that's because as much as even somebody like the classic libertarian is an individualist and likes to think of themselves as an individualist, they are actually addicted to the groupthink. And, human beings are social animals.
That's the problem with politics now, and probably politics, throughout our history, is if you're not 100% aligned with one side, then you're not on the team.
Yeah, if you're not in, you're out.
Yeah. So there's no space for creative thought.
It allows them to use us as tools. Okay. And that's why I've said a million times, the issues are a distraction, and I mean it. Okay, this keeps us pitted against each other, and this is an old tactic. I mean, an example that many people would consider old, that isn't really all that old if you consider the larger history, is the 1830s, or in the 1820s or so. there was a great solidarity between blacks in America, free blacks in the North, and Irish, other immigrants that had come in. There were not the racial tensions that exist after that period. And you say, well, what changed? And at the time, they were looking at their common position, basically against the factory owners, and saying, you know, what do we have in common and who is our enemy? And so they were able to get along. We don't have to guess because we have the paperwork, we have published documents, we have private correspondence that now the people are so long dead that we feel free to look at these private correspondences. And we see that it was a deliberate effort on the part of the people that owned these factories and that had all of the power in the society to turn these groups against each other. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't something that just happened. They took steps to make them hate each other, to say you're competing with him for your job, and they lost sight of who their enemy was. So
interesting.
You know, if it
so fucked up.
It's a political struggle, and this is a problem for me because I'm looking to run a campaign within that party. But for me, the struggle is not political. Politics is used to divide us, and so I view somebody, say on the far left, that at least has the wherewithal to say that's my enemy. I view him as my friend because you understand that all this needs to come down. People can disagree on how to set it back up again, and we can argue about that later. After the real threat, the people that are running this show are gone. The elite, the establishment, the status quo. It ain't working.
So how do you think we combat this? What are the steps? Is there anything we can do? I mean, I know I feel like the internet is playing a big part in opening the curtain. But what do we do in this situation? Or are we just fucked?
Some people would say we were fucked. Some people are saying they're at the point where they're, advocating things like picking up a gun. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that those thought processes haven't occurred to me at different times. To believe that the situation is that desperate, I do. But I look towards peaceful processes. I'm a peaceful person, okay? And I believe that the political process maybe does offer some avenues to correct some of this, but not if we're going to play the game the way they want you to play it. It is set up to keep marginalized people marginalized. They are not opening the door for everybody to participate. Oh, you have some ideas. Well, come in, have a seat, young man, have a cigar. Let's discuss this and let's integrate your ideas into our government. That's not what this is, people. And I'm ashamed to say that some of the people that I affiliate with seem to believe this, but John doesn't believe it, and he's one of the only ones, okay?
Wow.
The door is not open. So if we're going to use this political process, something I've been trying to get through to people for a long time is we have to use it as a weapon. The votes need to become the votes, and we don't need to play by their rules. We have to follow the law or they'll shut it down. I get that. But we don't need to follow any of the traditions. We don't need to act like we're friends, and we need to be very clear in our message. Maybe there's a chance. I view the hope, the wave, as sort of the same one that Donald Trump wrote in, and that was the Kardashian wave. I call coming out of the Kardashian age, and that's what set the stage up for Trump. You have a reality TV star, became president. That was my idea with Charlie Sheen, and it just the wrong man got it. What are you going to do?
Charlie
probably could have been close. Yeah, if
Charlie,
we didn't have all that shit come out in the end, you probably had a good shot.
I mean, he's a dynamic guy.
Tiger blood, and the Charlie Sheen that I wanted, maybe the expiration date was up, but the one that I had seen that I wanted would have been exactly what was needed. John has a similar presence, and if we could get him on the stage with these people, where do we get? Well, here's one step. We will have a person on the stage, and this is why, to me, John is the best candidate out there so far, who will not one iota draw back from telling the truth. And it will be, I promise you, unlike anything that's ever been heard up on that stage.
Yeah.
They need at least somebody telling them from those lights and not from some dark corner. This isn't it. And we may not know everything that's going on, and I guarantee you we don't. In fact, people that say that they do, I sort of laugh at them because, no, you don't know that. You can't know that. But we do know what isn't the case in a lot of cases. It's sort of like People ask me my opinion on 9/11. I don't know what happened, but I kind of know what didn't happen. Okay, pretty fucking obvious what didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So, have we ever had a president that's sort of close to that? You think, or no? Yeah.
Everybody. So the first time that John ran, when we were getting to know each other, I said, in return for volunteering, really the only thing that I ask and all that I want is that if you win, the wait until they inevitably sit you down, which they will, I believe they do, sit you down and tell you what it is. You're not running the show, we are, and that's just that.
Right.
The very next day, please, from the Oval Office with the background where people are accustomed to getting their State of the Union address, I want you to get on the TV and tell the American people what just happened. And tell them that their vote is meaningless. You have no power. You've been put on notice. If you can, record that conversation. And, of course, they're going to hit you with national security, but we would have on a plane right after that. I mean, because this is what has to happen. People need to realize that the emperor has no fucking clothes and that there's a regular-looking guy behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating, and I hope one day that will happen. But I mean, that's why a lot of people voted for Trump. Just give the middle finger to the whole administration.
And I get it. And listen, this is something that the Democrats don't want to hear. That's why people that supported Bernie Sanders voted for Trump. Okay, they can't figure it out. Mm-hmm. They don't understand why those people would cross the aisle, and they want to put it down to the moral character of those people, and they want to denigrate those people. Those people are fed up. That's why they support Bernie Sanders, okay?
Yeah.
They're fed up with the status quo. There's a reason they walked across the aisle, because they said, well, if not that, then this. What they knew is that walk along Clinton was not going to be anything but what's already been served up. Same as walk along Hope and Change Obama, who didn't change a goddamn thing, and Bush before him. People can tell the difference even if they can't articulate it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If you had to vote for one of the candidates in the Democratic Party right now, who would you choose?
I mean,
that's a hard question.
Listen, if it's got to be somebody that was up there, it would probably be Wang, Sanders, or Gabbard. And I'm not going to sit here and pick between the three. I've got things I don't like about each one, and the only thing that I really do like about each one is their attitude in that one particular regard, saying that all of this is wrong for the most part, and we really need to start getting to the bottom of some shit. That's what I look for, and that has real meaning, and you see that meaning come out. Somebody who's a very decisive, divisive element in the modern political scene over the last year, Alexandria Cortez. She's the
AOC, yeah.
Now, I know people don't like a lot of her opinions. I don't like a lot of her opinions. Some people love her opinions. Whatever you think about the woman, look at this, okay? She went into Congress with a certain attitude, and right off the bat, I don't remember, it was Feinstein or one of those stupid women in the Senate that have been there forever, that, the crypt keeper, right?
Uh-huh.
And she said, well, this woman needs to settle down, and she needs to learn how things here.
This Pelosi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, same thing. Tell me, people say, well, what do you like about that woman? That's what I like right there, okay? Yeah. That attitude is the right attitude, and it highlights the opposite side of the coin. What it's a response to? No, we don't need to learn how you do things here. How you do things here is the problem, okay? That's the problem we're here to solve. And drain the swamp was great words. It's what really needs to be done. That entire DC culture, Babylon, needs to go down in fire. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
That's what we need term limits.
Yeah, it's a fucking oligarchy right now. It's no different than Russia.
Yeah, we need term limits in the Senate and the House.
You got a hot coffee and a cold coffee?
I got like 5 coffees here, yeah. Let's see, the only thing that stands me up, I start with it, and first thing in the morning, I drink like 8 pots all day.
Yeah. I've been drinking this shit called mud water. It's like coffee alternative. That shit jacks you up like crazy. You should try it.
It's like got cacao in it.
It's a bunch of different mushrooms, and it's like taking Adderall. Yeah. It's good.
Mushrooms can be good, yeah.
Mushrooms are good. I don't know, Hans. Do you have any other questions here?
I think that's
anything else?
Yeah, anything else you want to add, Rob?
Actually, I don't know. I sort of want to hear about more about your magazine, though. So is it published, or is it a blog, sort of like a blog type thing?
It's online only. It's
Okay.
a blog, and then I transitioned over to doing more feature pieces, which are a little more researched, and I try to make sure everything's linked. Lately, I've been trying to bring in other writers with limited success, and I started a new column where I'm just giving a sharing opinion. I don't think I place a high value on opinions because it's our only window to the future. If you don't use anybody getting any forward-looking statement, it's always an opinion, which amazes me when people put so much stock into them. Like, listen, that person's just giving an opinion. Nobody can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. And when you do something, the world has a way of not cooperating with that. So things can. I just read a thing where they had a AI trying to work the stock market, and I think it was something like 50%. 50% was its rate, which a person could do better. And it just goes to tell you that there's as much feeling to it as there is numbers and hard, science.
Yeah.
Because we're living in the world and things influence each other. So,
yeah, that's what economics is. It's like human decision making. So I know John is concerned with AI. Do you have any strong opinions about AI? We don't really know much about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to. What you can know is this.
Like, we've seen the Terminator, and we're scared.
So that's all I got to know. But we can create things that, once they start with their own autonomous processes, can then exceed our own expectations. And think about it like having a child. You can create a child pretty simply, right? If maybe easier for some people than others, but it's possible for most people. And this child can grow beyond what you were able to accomplish or be yourself. Beyond sometimes what you can even understand. I've met very stupid people who had brilliant children, and it's like, where did just maybe sleep with the postman? I mean, what. So that's one example of how it works, sort of a metaphor for somebody to wrap their head around. Well, if we don't understand how to make it, how can we make something that's smarter than us? It would run away from us. That's the thing. All things that you and I are discussing today, and we say this is wrong, that is wrong. Why would not an artificial intelligence look at it and say, these human beings, I can't help but notice that everything they touch turns to shit.
Yeah, right.
Do something about that.
I heard that if we are like a half a second behind Russia or China in the AI race, then we're fucked. Because that half a second is all they need to accumulate more intelligence or data. Someone was explaining this to me recently. And that's fucking terrifying, because apparently Trump's administration is not really putting much time or effort into the AI race or the 5G race, stuff like that. But yeah, it's scary shit. And who knows what's going to happen in the future.
That's almost a misnomer, Trump's administration. I think enough is played out in public that we should realize that there is a war going on inside the government right now. There's no such thing as Trump's administration in any sense that we can, compare it to other administrations. And I don't believe that he's on the side of the people. I didn't from day one. I believe he's on his own side.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be now? But on the same token, he's also not 100% in their bag, and it shows.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit more autocracy than other, candidates do, mainstream ones.
Yeah. I mean, he says one thing, does the other. Not very different from most presidents, though.
He just does it differently. And, sometimes I'm hearing some of the objections that people have to him. And it's like, really? That's what bothers you? And some people come right out and say that they don't mind being, fucked in the ass with a jackhammer, as long as the person doing it is smiling and behaving respectably. Like, what are you out of your mind? Like,
that's a great quote.
Yeah.
I don't want that. If somebody's going to do that to me, I at least want them to be drooling and shit so I can pick them out from 10 feet away. I don't somebody shaking my hand and glad handing me, telling me everything's fine, while they're wrecking the world I got to live in. So
Right.
some people seem to prefer that. I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll definitely check out your magazine. I'm sorry we didn't look at it before this. We probably should have.
Yeah.
But it's called what's the name of it again? If you want to shout it out.
Loggia on Fire magazine.
Okay.
LoggiaOnFire.com. And I'm excited about a new column that I started where I'm really kind of taking off the gloves and not forcing myself into certain molds that I do for the feature pieces on there. It allows me to write a little faster and hopefully keep fresh content up a little bit more.
Awesome.
And just really explore ideas, because that's what this is all about. You do an interview and you say, I'm going to ask questions, and then for these questions, I'm going to receive answers. But almost everything that I've said, you really need to put an asterisk next to it. I'm just a searcher, and I'm looking for these things. And I think when we stop searching, we might as well be dead. And when you know something for certain, you are no longer looking. And I think that's where we're at as a country. Here's a fun game to play with people who are very partisan. Start talking about something very generic or philosophical, and start all the way at the beginning, so that they can't see necessarily where you're going. And a lot of times, depending on how talented the person is, you can see it on their faces as they do the mental acrobatics to try and figure out where you're going with it, to try and figure out how they should answer now so they don't get painted into a corner.
Right.
If you were really thinking about this, shouldn't you walk to see where it's going, and then that should be your conclusion?
Right.
Why should you be guessing what your answer should be based on what you want your conclusion to be? These are not open-minded people. They're not interested in discussion.
Yeah, that's like the opposite of the scientific method. You're trying to
the opposite of the Socratic.
You start with a conclusion and you try to prove it. It's like the flat earthers. They all do those experiments, and they. What do you think about the flat Earth?
I'm glad those people have a society, and when I look at the effect that it has on serious scientist types, I'm extremely gratified that they exist. Do I think that they're correct? I have no way of knowing. I've never been in space. Our spatial mechanics escape me. Quantum physics, if you start diving down that rabbit, forget about it. I can't even begin to understand the shit. And a lot of it seems to have something to it. So who knows what we really are or exist as. I think that in some respects that context is too large to speak about intelligently. So why not a flat Earth? Maybe it is from plane or perspective, some dimension that we can't stand in necessarily and survive, but it is there. Perhaps it is flat.
I mean, that's the ultimate question. Who or what we are, and why the fuck do we exist?
Yeah.
But if you look at an extrusion of time, and if you look at the human lifespan, and sort of the way we start, and then the middle, and then the end, and you extrude that, you get sort of this worm. And from one perspective, we can be viewed as that worm if we're viewing the whole lifespan. And that's I don't look differently. One of my best friends in the world at this point, John McAfee, the man I have infinite amount of respect for, I don't view in age as in any meaning that there's anything different between us. If we have discussions, it's two people laughing and talking, and I don't see his age. And people, oh, well, you see it. I really don't. And what I see is the worm. I don't mean that as an insult, but what I see is the full picture. And that's how we can look at a child and see in that potential. That's what's so exciting about that, is what the rest of it is going to come to look at. When somebody has all of that under a belt, we have more of the picture, but we still don't have it all, because we continue down to that last day, and then sort of the masterpiece is complete. That's a cool way of looking at a lifespan, but it kind of also makes you think maybe these flat earthers, maybe they're onto something. The rest of us aren't sophisticated enough to see it. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely possible in today's age. Do you know, you don't have to tell us where, but do you know where John is? You don't have to tell us where, but do you know where John is right now?
John is in and nobody's going to believe me, John is in a small shack that he erected behind the White House next to a sewage tunnel. And he's doing all of his broadcasting from there.
That would be so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of sewage tunnels in Washington. They need them. So they'll be looking all year.
That would be crazy if it turned out John was behind the White House in a shack.
That would be crazy.
And listen, in all seriousness, and maybe this will drive the point that I opened with home. I don't, and I don't want to, and I wouldn't let him tell me if he tried. It's a serious enough situation that that kind of information is not going to be communicated electronically.
Yeah. I actually feel really bad for him. I mean, it seems like he's had a really rough last 5 to 10 years, but he seems to be doing, he has high spirits about his situation. I mean, he's with Janice.
Thrives on excitement and being alive and adventure and learning and finding. Well, here's a man who started a multi-billion-dollar industry all on his own. He's lived as a millionaire in the mountains of Colorado and as a millionaire in the woods of Belize, and had to run out of there real quick. When you've done all these things and you've explored so many disciplines, really what's left? John had the ability to enjoy himself with nothing around or in a room full of people. I know that him and Janice are living it up because that's just what they do. So don't feel too bad for him. It's maybe not as the ideal situation, and I certainly miss him, and I miss Janice as well. But let me tell you something. They're doing fine, and they'll continue to be doing fine.
That's good.
Stay awesome.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, he's one of the most incredible characters I've come across in my lifetime. I mean, I think he's just a fucking genius. The amount of shit he's done in his lifetime is incredible. Yeah. That's why we were so fucking happy to talk with him.
And you.
Yeah, and you too.
Well, listen, I get a rise every time I hear John say it, but the greatest piece of wisdom that I've ever heard it come out of his mouth, which I hear plenty of times, I don't fucking know. Somebody will ask him something in all seriousness and expect him to, I don't fucking know. And it is the best answer if you don't know. And
right.
Yeah.
From people feeling like they have to make something up. They're, well, I don't know, but let me tell you what you should think. That's ridiculous.
That's what he said to us. I asked him, where do you think our country is going in the next 20 years? I was expecting some insight, like, we're headed towards this way because of this, and that. And he just said, I don't fucking know. But he followed it up with some good insights. But that's funny that you say that.
He has a keen sense, and he can analyze and look at things in a way that many people can't. And by making that comment, I don't look to take that away from him. But to understand the respect with which I make that statement, you can go to LoggiaOnFire.com. Very few people do it, but you can scroll all the way to the bottom, and I have a disclaimer on there. It's a little video clip, and it really encapsulates my view of knowledge in general. And here I am publishing this informational blog, and the clip is a cut out of a Doors concert with Jim Morrison doing a little rant. And basically, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and neither do you. Motherfucker, just like you are. And, truthfully, that is what other disclaimer can I put on the things that I write and the things that I say, things that I do? I will discuss and explore with you, but I'm not going to act like I'm an authority.
Right.
I don't know. John does the same thing, and that's one of the foundations of my respect for him and for his wisdom, in that he has the courage to say I don't know when he doesn't know.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the building blocks of an open-minded view towards life. I mean, accepting and realizing that you don't know the answers. And that's one of the issues with our whole world right now, is that there's a million different opinions. Everyone thinks they're right. Yep. And no one's giving each other or themselves the chance to even tell that to themselves. Like, I don't know. Let's talk about it.
And to add to that, a whole bunch of people who now have gone a step further and are going to tell you what you should think using the thumb of power. They all love this. So they got a consultant, a political consultant, told them all, and now word's gotten around, but they figure pointing is adversarial, so it makes people feel funny. So they said, like this, because it's less confrontational and it makes people feel better. So I never point at you and say something like, I call that the thumb of power, and I fucking hate it.
That's funny.
Watch when you see these politico schmucks talking on the television.
They're like this. That's interesting. So, Rob, I know you're into crypto, and I know John said that he would eat his own dick if by the end of 2020 it didn't go to $1 million. Bitcoin didn't go to $1 million a share. Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't fucking know.
Well, where do you think it's going? Because we've got a lot of listeners that are interested in crypto, and yeah, I know you're into it. So, what are your thoughts? Where is it going? Do you think it's a good time to invest right now? Do you think people should wait?
But listen, first of all, I think chart reading is the water dowsing of the modern era. You're basically walking around with a stick, and you maybe hit something every now and again because you have to. I don't think there's any way to really truly predict what happens in markets. There are too many wild cards with crypto because of the government and even the element of some of the people who have come in. It's not the same set that it was before I was involved. And I look back at sort of the history of crypto and the people who were more vocal then. And I say, well, I have a lot of respect for the things that they were saying and trying to accomplish. And not so much now. Frankly, there's been this invasion of I don't know what to call them, but a lot of Boy Scouts and just, people that I really don't like. And they're saying a lot of very stupid things on a regular basis. And so, with this kind of mealy-mouthed, willingness to say anything in order to get their bags to pump, and this, wanting to kiss the ass of authority rather than circumvent it, I don't know that some of the spark hasn't been lost as a result of that. John is one of the few strong leaders left, and a lot of people within the industry discount his views because they're so extreme. So that element troubles me. And unfortunately, it's become a pretty visible part of the crypto sphere. You watch a lot of the podcasts and you see this nonsense on there more and more. So again, I don't want to offer predictions about where the price is going to go.
Yeah.
What I do believe and continue to believe is that the technology is essential. I think that it's inevitable because it exists. I don't think something like this can simply be made to go away.
I agree.
Over the long term, every day is a good day to buy because it's not tomorrow. And, tomorrow, maybe not the next day, but tomorrow, a year from now or 5 years from now, the rise is sort of inevitable if that's what you're looking to do. I'm looking for a rise in adoption. Do I want bags to go up? Yeah, that'd be great. What we need is for these technologies to mature. And I don't just mean Bitcoin. I mean coins like Monero, privacy-based platforms, these things that can be used as tools by people to combat large institutions and organizations that want to stamp on their freedom.
Right.
That's to me the most important thing, and I think it's inevitable. I think it's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the technology is so revolutionary and new that it is completely inevitable, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You can't shut it down.
Right.
You can pass laws, you can legislate, but people can pass this shit around on USB sticks if they have to. It is not something that they can stop. What they can do is try to introduce their own versions of it, try to mandate that people use it, box them into corners. And that's one of the reasons why I guess so many of these sort of regulated environments bother me, KYC and things like that. In a generic sense, I would have no problem with there being marketplaces that are safer than others. I understand that there are people who, for example, prefer custodial solutions rather than holding their own keys, and they prefer that trade-off. In a vacuum, I don't think that they shouldn't have access to that. But I find it hard to promote that now because the way they want to set things up is an existential threat to the rest of us. And they want to make it so that that's the only way to do it. And that I'm not cool with, okay?
Right.
Be to each their own, but we have to have these unregulated solutions out there too. Governments don't like that. People that want to control others don't like that. And cowards don't like that. Listen, how much of our society and the laws in our society are just driven by straight up cowardice? I don't care what rights of yours, what quality of life of yours has to be taken away as long as I can be made safer and all of this can continue for me. And I can have my 2.5 kids and 3.4 dogs and 3 SUVs. And then it's as simple as that. That's cowardice. I'm not, so I call it what it is.
Right.
So again, they drive that narrative, and they then want to take away from the rest of us freedom. I don't believe that that's an acceptable trade-off, and I'll fight it until I'm dead.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Rob, I thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure speaking to you. You're an extremely intelligent person. Great conversation. We'd love to have you on again at some point. Do you have any more questions, Hans?
I think that's it for today, but thank you very much, Rob.
Yeah.
First, I couldn't figure out why you wanted me, but then I saw that your podcast was about everything sexy.
Yeah, it is.
Fucking shit. That
Life is sexy.
Yeah,
Life
you're
is
something
sexy.
that's sexy to us, Rob.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to bring up? I mean, we'd love to keep going if you want to. We do have another interview coming up in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a pleasure.
I'm not a stranger. You saw it's easy to get me. And
Awesome.
Cool.
It was an absolute pleasure and very relaxed. Ordinarily, I said, how do I get myself into this shit? But I had fun. You guys are laid back. I like the vibe.
Awesome.
We'll see each other again.
All right.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah, we'd
Thanks,
love to
Rob.
have you
Yeah,
on.
we'll
Thanks again, Rob.
We'll hit you back up when we get some
Definitely
more
check out
questions.
Rob's website. It's
Loggia on Fire.
Loggia on Fire. Twitter is, what's your Twitter?
Loggia on Fire.
At Loggia on Fire is your Twitter?
Yep.
He is the campaign. Sorry?
McAfee2020.com too.
McAfee2020.com.
John McAfee's campaign manager, everyone. And thank you again, Rob. We really appreciate your time here. Had a great time speaking with you.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care.
We hit down here.